This conference will now be recorded.
It is 2:00, so we'll get started. So I'll call the meeting for the Roswell Infrastructure Committee order. It is 2:00 and it is Monday, March the 25th. So if we could have roll call, please.
Counselor Oropesa,
Here,
Counselor Johnson, Counselor Arnold, present, Counselor Kevin,
Present.
and Councilor Moore.
and Counselor Moore, sorry.
Councilor Moore, are you online? Maybe not. So if we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented,
So moved.
we have a motion. Second,
Is Councilor Moore online?
No.
Oh, I guess I'll second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. Motion to approve the minutes for the General Services Committee meeting of January the 24th. And of course, last month we took action to do away with the General Services Committee and rolled it into the Infrastructure Committee. So are you in the General Services? Were you in the?
I think Councilor Moore is the only one that's on there.
No, I was as well.
Oh, were you? Okay, well
I don't know
then
that.
you get to make the motion then.
So moved.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes of the General Services Committee of January 24th.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. The next one is approval of the minutes from the Infrastructure Committee meeting on February the 26th. If I can have a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Motion to approve,
Second.
second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. And motion passes, and now we'll go on to non-action items. Item number 3, facility department project updates. Infrastructure Committee open discussion. That changed for?
Nothing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Everybody, my name is Nathaniel. So first on the list, we have the landfill pressure washer shed. This is a large heated pressure washer unit that's going into the wash bay at the landfill. All we lack are getting the utilities run on that and getting it set up. Hopefully we'll get that set up here by the end of this next month. Second is the landfill tough shed. We still have to do quite a bit to that to get it down in the pit for the winter. That way the people that are down in the pit don't have so far to get tools and equipment. They can stay out there and keep working. Fire station 4 window demo. That job is complete except for drywall on the interior. They completed it on Friday. Rec Center pool HVAC condenser fan. That job is complete. It was completed last week. We do have one more condenser fan that is failing and it is on order. Where the parts are about 30 to 32 weeks out for those particular condenser fans. Rec Center concrete pool failure. In the process of boring some holes under the slabs around the pool, see if there is moisture under the slabs so that we can get Hewitt dollars back down here and try to get this fixed. I believe that there's a bigger issue there, but we can't do anything until we get these boreholes drilled and get everything sealed back up.
And committee members, if you have any questions as it goes on, please feel free to ask the question.
Next is the City Hall and Convention Center long-term pigeon population control. Has a program going on this roof and one on top of Convention Center. It's a long-term, it's called oval control. You basically feed the birds birth control and they just kind of wean out and it does no poison, no killing them, just letting them do their thing. It does create quite a bit of cleanup, however, which I have most of the tools and guys to do it. We've been trying to keep our roofs clean and preventive maintenance has been pretty important. Developing a roofing preventative maintenance package, trying to, like I said, roof is the first layer between us and the weather, so I've just been trying to spend a little time to develop something for the city that doesn't cost us as much that we can do in-house. And I think by the end of the summer, I should have a very good grasp on what I can do and where we can go with it. That's it for me.
Is there any question by committee members? Any questions by Rita?
I just want to know, are those the original fans at the rec center?
The condenser fans, I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
So we have 3 HVAC units on the museum that are brand new installed. The way that the wiring is up there is each unit does not have its own control, its own power source. And I'm afraid that if I hook these new units up the way it is, there's a chance of burning them out. So I'm holding off on hooking them up until this next fiscal year when we can get money to run specific power for those units. But actuality, every unit needs to be done up there.
So you have one set of units to, one power source to all 3 units?
To all the units up there.
So it'd take a huge breaker for all that.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, each one comes on different?
Yes, sir. So it needs to be completely clean there.
Right now, we have a quote for adding a sub panel that'll serve 5 units. And there's about 26 or 27 units in total. And that quote was for $50,000. So that's the money that Mr. Mayor, you helped us with sending off to the state for our ICIP capital requests. So we'll see how that, I don't know if that was resolved yet.
So you have to do, or then just there, on these units, are all of them, or all 25 all on?
They're all 25 hooked up just like that.
So if you run air conditioning in one part of the building, they all run?
No, but the power source comes from the same place. We need to put them on individual power sources. That way we can identify and lock out individual units.
Yeah, well, you need to be able to do that.
Yes, sir.
So right now, we're on hold with like our auditorium and portions of our galleries don't have HVAC right now.
All right. With these newer units, I'm afraid that if we get a power surge with that old wiring, since they're all connected, we're going to do that.
Anything else? And I forgot to mention, if you're here, please make sure that you sign the sign-in sheet to make sure that we have a record of it. And if you speak, if you can identify yourself, just for the record, so we know who's speaking. If that's it for that one, we'll go to the next one. Is item number 4, project updates. Again, it's an infrastructure committee open discussion. And this one is it's a very lengthy one, so I don't think you want to go through the whole report, every item on there. It's almost an update of the many projects that the city is involved in, right?
Yeah, this one's the engineering one. Yeah, yes, sir.
So I would say that if committee members, if you have any specific questions that you can ask instead of going through the whole report. Any specific projects that you want an update? I think for a large part of it, a lot of it is self-explanatory.
Yeah. We have a few pictures from the dewatering project, and then the next slide is some pictures from the Mescalero Bridge project. But yeah, as Chairman said, we'll stand for any questions on the engineering project update.
On the bridge, when is that gonna be done?
We're looking, Thomas McAllister. So we got about 2 weeks of roadway before we complete the roadway and structure construction. But there's a lead time on the actual bridge railing. So right now, we're trying to figure out just how long that lead time is and if we can put anything in there temporary. We may be able to come in with some temporary wall barrier and protect it and be able to open the road until we can get the guardrail installed. But as far as the project construction roadway structure goes, we should be able to have it completed within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And if they're as big as that river can flow, is there, you have to have a guardrail? I mean, I don't know out here, I just know how big it was coming across Main Street.
Yes, sir. Due to linear TCD standards, we have to install guardrail to open it to traffic or some kind of temporary railing system.
I mean, because if it gets as wild as it did on Main Street, it'd be better if it'd fold over.
Right.
I mean, you don't want it to catch trees because it'll take out the whole structure.
Right. This structure is considerably bigger than what was there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's probably 5 times bigger.
oh, yeah. And then what you're seeing in the picture, there's a PCCP slab that we actually added to the design of the box. So we raised the grade about 10 inches to facilitate the 10-inch slab that the guys are working down in the box, which will give it more protection. It'll help it, if we do get a big flood, it'll kind of help that lateral help keep it from moving.
Yeah, just when it comes across Main Street under that bridge, it's a lot bigger than that hole.
Right.
So, that means that it's gonna go over that, so. I'm just saying, it's gonna back up behind it,
Right.
and that's my only concern. It is a lot better than what it was, I mean.
Anything else, Mayor?
No, that's it.
Anybody else have any questions, concerns? Anybody online have any questions or concerns?
I might point out at that structure, the water table there is about 4 feet deep or something, or 8 feet deep. It's, the water table's right there. There's springs
It's amazing.
all over there.
It's amazing how much water
Comes under it.
just right at the foundation of that structure.
Yeah,
It's just amazing.
It comes, when I there and looked at it, you can see the water going across there now, but earlier, I mean, it was all going underneath the bridge.
Right.
And I mean, there was a lot of water coming through there, so,
I would venture to guess that the one that washed out already had probably a pretty good sized void, just because of the amount of water that's just the spring water that's feeding right there.
Mhm.
So on this one, you can see it in the picture, but in order to keep it from saturating our backfill and causing settlement, we backfilled with gravel for the first 3 foot on each side. That way we could
keep
withstand,
it up, hopefully.
yeah, we could withstand the water. And then there's French drains in there that you can't see behind the riprap. That way it'll let that water reach out a little faster so it don't build up and start saturating the grade, backfill around it.
I mean, I knew the water table was high because when I was a kid over there, but when you look at it, now, I mean, it's way up from where it was when I was a kid. I mean, it just, yes, because they're managing the flow of the Pecos.
We finished with the conversation?
Yeah, I'll quit.
All right, we'll go on to item number 5, airport infrastructure discussion.
And give you an update on some of our projects that we have got on the list for some time. First item is the apron placement one, that's 1920 grant. We did receive an extension for 1 year for the FAA on it, so it's not going to expire until August of 25. That will be a fiscal year 25 project. The next item is basically the same type of project on the ramp, but we will not be doing that till like 27. So next fiscal year, I will ask them to extend that 1 year out. Unless, of course, we have funds to complete it. The airport master plan, we received the second working paper. The TAC team received that on February 29th. I've asked that they have all their comments back to me by last Saturday. I received one comment back from those that are on the TAC team. So we'll proceed with working paper 2. Unless we receive others, and we can take those comments into consideration. The BER 1735, that's still in the FAA's hands. They're looking at the fleet mix and trying to decide what is best for that runway. Right now, it probably will be a Millenville. Strategic plan, we did have our second stakeholders meeting. That information is being gathered. We will have another virtual meeting, I believe it's next week. And then they'll schedule their third visit out to Roswell. The ILEA HVAC upgrade is 90% complete, and we are pretty much just waiting for pretty well scheduled training with the city officials. And Southeast Waterline Phase 2, HDR is doing the design. We contracted with Armstrong Consultants to do the construction safety plan. We have terminal expansion. We are going to be discussing that at the next AAC meeting to try to find a project to attach to that grant. The design, the airflow electric vaults, that's under task order was approved. The engineers are working on the design. We should have that completed by the end of June. BLM taxi lane and the BLM slurry pit will both be completed by June. We will go out to bid, but we will not start construction until after the fire season, which is looking more like August, September. I stand for questions.
Committee members, any questions?
Mr. Chair, Ms. Griego Brady, thank you. Could you elaborate on the 2.78 million federal EDC grant that was originally for what we call the doghouse roof at Cavu, that Cavu has since turned down, that we were looking for another project for relating to the cookie factory and the potential tenant out there that we understand is not currently wanting to lease that facility, and just where we're going with that for the.
That project is going to also be listed on the AAC meeting to see if we can come up with a project to use this funds before we lose them. That is 100% grant. Now we don't want to lose it, so we have to tie it to some jobs. We've tried to move it around to different projects out there, and either nobody seems to be interested, they like it, but they have operations going on in hangars and they can't afford to stop construction or work to do the construction part of it. So we do need something to use those funds for. And
those expire in 2026,
2026.
100% grant, no matching, that must be tied to jobs. My understanding 40 to 50 jobs, job creation. And it must be, the improvements must be a minimum 15-year, preferably 20-year useful life. So there are some stipulations. We'd like to find a home for those funds and not forfeit those funds. We are exploring the possibility of the current Dean Baldwin building and the issues we've had with the roof out there. But main thing is we're looking for a home for those funds so we don't divert those back. Ms. Griego and her team will be taking that to their advisory committee at the airport to get some of their ideas as well. But just so the committee knows.
Councilman,
Just a small question. I don't completely know all of the guidelines on that grant, but what about the sale of the bus plant and the new manufacturing? Is there any way they could utilize any of it?
I think it's a great question. I think Mr. Spiritu may have broached that question and could probably elaborate.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, City Manager, we haven't completely finished discussing that. Would be helpful if we can get a copy of those detailed requirements of the grant. I hate to push something out there and not have all the detail to give the company to consider what they're responsible for. I would like to re-engage the company in 93 again, but I need some meat to go, if that'll help. Can you get me a copy of the grant? That would be great. And then that way I can have that dialogue. Then we'll know exactly where we're at 93. And then we'll know what we can do with the modular housing company. The modular housing company, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, has a $400,000 ALEDA grant award if the company finishes their paperwork. So for renovations, I'm not sure what else they may need, but they'll certainly would qualify if there is some funding. Can we split the funds in different projects? I don't know the details. So
We have announced that. We have a meeting with UBC next week.
So if I can get, Mr. Chairman, if I can get a copy of that grant, that I can see the detail, they'll tell me the next step on how we can push it. I would like to see that other company come back in there because I'm not sure where the job numbers are exactly, but I don't want to speak the company out of turn and give them improper information and they can't satisfy the grant. Does that make sense? And then we'll go from there and I'll be happy to report back to Paul.
any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. If we had anybody that has shown any interest in the old health department building that's out there behind the youth challenge.
We've had one gentleman come in and take a look. We have not heard back from him in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
That gentleman involved in aerospace
Yes.
business
Yes.
for that building? Well, hopefully we can get it leased. It's been 2 years,
It's been longer than that.
Probably been about 3 now.
Longer than that.
or 21, I think it was when,
Before you had the mayor and
Yeah,
the city councilor, so that was 2 years.
3 years.
2 years ago.
3 years at least.
It's been about 3.
Yep.
We ran them out and they moved a couple places.
Yep. Anything else? Anything from the people attending in person? Anybody attending online? And if not, we'll go on to the next one. Item number 6, Infrastructure Committee open discussion on spring 2024 pavement maintenance street list.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, committee members, this was requested last infrastructure meeting. A list of all the streets for fiscal year 24 spring pavement maintenance. So that's in your packet. The PO for this was, I believe, approved in January and work's already begun. They started last week on this work. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions from committee members? I know we got an email concerning East 7th Street. I believe it was the gentleman that sent us, wanted to know why 2 was getting upgraded and Ward 1 was not on 7th. I think it's 7th Street.
Was it?
But, and I don't know if we ever responded to him or not.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't see that email. I'm not,
Monica, do you remember that?
Yes, it was 7th Street from Main Street to Washington.
that he was asking about.
I think it's just a matter of educating people or putting the word out in the public,
In the process.
how the process works as far as what streets are getting done and so forth. So, because I think people are just looking at it, well, when they went by my house, they skipped my house and they did the next street down or whatever. And I know that you guys have a plan in place of when and what to do with all those streets.
Mr. Chair, I thought you responded to him. But
Sorry?
I said, I thought you responded to him. Just noting that.
I did respond to him, but I sent it to Mr. Nahar. I told him that Mr. Nahar may be better off to give us that information, but I never heard from him either, so I don't know if he followed up on his email or not. Mayor?
I'm sorry if it's okay if I speak one more time.
Yes, sir.
You know, I would be happy to respond to that individual and say, and tell him it has nothing to do with the quality of his representatives on the council and for why Ward 2 is getting down and Ward 1. I'd be glad to do that, you know, for those councilors, because that could be a tough thing for them to have to swallow. And I always try to look after all my children.
I wish you would respond to him and let him know that the councilors have nothing to do with that particular.
It was Lewis that did it, I'll tell him. But in all seriousness, our present policy, I know they try to do a little bit in each ward, but our present policy creates a lot of problems because when you look, we go and we do 2 blocks on Sunset, and then there's potholes this big on the next block. It makes it to where it's very difficult to make people understand that, hey, you know, we need to maybe go in and fix a street and maybe all the council, we need to talk about that some, because when you go down 2 blocks and it's real nice pavement, you come the next one, there's holes, and then the next block, it causes some issues. And I was just in jest about, but I will be glad to say that this policy has, I don't know how many people ask me, why the hell did you fix up Sunset and leave 2 blocks out? You know, from Hobbs to McGaffey. Why would you do that? And the other thing that's bad too is when you look at it and you see how thin that overlay is. I mean, it looks like it's about a 1/2 inch thick when you get to where it comes up and meets the old pavement. And so you have no idea whether it's 2 inches thick or 3 inches or a 1/2 inch thick, just because what you see is a 1/2 inch thick. And so we might really need to look at that whole policy about fixing things where we, maybe if we pick a big artery, that we fix the whole thing and not just do a little bit.
And my understanding is the previous infrastructure, I think it was infrastructure and general services that got together, or the committee chairs of those 2 committees, and gave direction to Lewis that they wanted a project in every ward and spend so much money, almost equal amount of money on each ward, which creates a problem that you're talking about. That we will do one part like Sunset and then skip you may skip an area that needs more work and maintenance than the one that was selected. And I think we do need to have that discussion, that we may have to come up with another plan.
Yeah, well, I mean, we go fix garden. Okay, we fixed Garden, got Garden pretty good, so now, then we divert all the traffic from Atkinson over to Garden, and now Garden's gone to hell, and we're still waiting to finish Atkinson.
And that one should be done by June?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it should be done by June, and Atkinson should be all the way through.
Well,
Once you finish that one.
all I'm saying is just looking at it, we have to keep the traffic moving safely, and potholes don't help that. And so I agree. I just think we ought to talk it over again, because I don't know, if you're, whoever you are, if you're going to the base, if you're from anywhere north and you're gonna go out Sunset, you still get the same potholes instead of having them, something where it looks like, well, the city finally did something really good. Well, now we just get, we did 2 blocks, and got 2 blocks with potholes, then 2 blocks, then 2 blocks with potholes.
It's a tough one, and I think this plan, believe what was, they came up with it, and I hate to say it, but it was election time. That's my personal opinion. Anything else? Yes.
It's correct. He was not on that email, but Lewis is taking care of the 7th Street.
They did respond to the
I
gentleman?
do believe that Lewis is taking care of that issue on 7th Street.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Next item. Informational reports from departments associated with infrastructure committee, and understanding that we have additional departments coming on board because of general services. So it's not just the departments that used to report to infrastructure. Now we have like parks, I believe, and I don't know what other departments.
So we have cemetery, central control, engineering, facility maintenance, fleet maintenance, transit, parks and rec, solid waste, special electronics and streets, the zoo, water maintenance and transmission, wastewater, and
I think if we hear from every single department head on those particular ones, we'll be here till 10 o'clock tonight. So my opinion is if department heads took the time to put a report together and they want to give a report, then we can hear the report. For the most part, I know that I take the time to look at the reports before coming to the meeting. And if I have specific questions, then I'll jot down my questions to ask instead of letting the department heads take time and go over their reports. But that doesn't mean that we will not hear your report if you do not want to give the report, or if you do want to give your report. Committee members, if you want to hear a specific report, you can request to hear that report. If not, we'll just ask the department heads if they would like to give their report, or just skip over it. So department heads that are here, would you like to give your report? And committee members, would you like to hear a specific report? And I guess the answer is no.
I'm good. Thank you.
And then item number 8, discussion of purchase of farmland adjacent to, and this is one that I requested to have on the agenda every month, just to make sure that we stay on top of it. That there may be additional reports coming or not, but just so that we don't put it on the back burner and forget about it. So, James, do you have any additional information concerning this?
I did talk to Lorenzo Sanchez. He said he didn't have anything additional to report from last month.
Because I know the information that you send us, it all deals with Mr. Morris at the time that he was here, when he had made contact with Mr. Wagner, I think his name was, and so forth. So, and again, this is one item that I would like to keep on the agenda for informational purposes and see if there's any new information coming up. And now we go to regular items. Action items, I would assume. Item number 9, Infrastructure Committee discussion and approval of any desired changes to committee meeting date and time. And the reason that this one is in here is I requested for this particular item to be placed as an action item. And I had met with Councilor Korn. And during the discussion, we talked about a lot of the items from Infrastructure Committee being directed into finance or legal. And Councilor Korn said that he would like to have additional time if there's some items that are coming to finance to be able to get to know the item and be aware and research and that kind of thing. And so I told Councilor Korn that I would request for the meeting to be held on the third Monday of the month instead of the fourth, which would give Finance Committee an additional week in case that we send a few items to Finance. And that way they can look at it and research it and whatever. Committee members, you have any comments? Any concerns of moving the meeting to the third Monday, which will be right after the city council meeting?
Second Thursday. Mr. Chairman, refresh me, when was the general services meeting?
General services used to be the fourth Wednesday. Yep.
I'm good with the third Monday, so I was just curious when the general services, since we're combining the two.
Yep. So it used to be infrastructure, general services and legal all in the same week before finance.
Looking at the calendar here. And the finance committee meeting is held usually the first week.
First Thursday of the month.
Okay, and then the legal is the last Thursday of the month.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, actually there's a lot of logic. That would give finance 2 weeks. And then
give
legal
weeks to kind
1
of
week.
look over specific
Actually,
items.
A little longer than 1 week. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so any further discussion on that? If not, can I entertain a motion to change it? I think we have to amend the rules to
The resolution?
the resolution to so if we make a motion, that is motion to amend the resolution.
That's correct, because we'll also have to remove general services from that, so we'll take care of both of those, update that.
What's is it said it's the rules solution for just 2402?
To amend.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm going to skirt through this best I can. I'd like to make a motion to amend Resolution 2402 to read that the infrastructure committee meetings will be held. Yes? Yeah.
We need to go ahead and approve this motion to go to city council, and then we will prepare to go to legal and then go to city council.
Okay, I'm lost.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
Do you want to just make a motion to move this to legal, for legal to
Yes, that is
do all?
correct.
And then
Because I wasn't sure.
we'll
the
take
city
it from
council-
legal, take it on to,
That is
okay.
correct, yes.
Okay, let me try again. Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to amend Resolution 2402 to be referred to legal. Well, actually, hang on. To 2402, amending the Infrastructure Committee meeting times to the third Monday of every month. This item at 2 o'clock. This item is to be referred to the legal committee. Is that, okay.
Do we have to add that? Well, no, because we already took the action to remove general services. Yeah, okay.
I think that's good. I don't think that you need to put the resolution part, you just need to put in the motion to move this to legal, and that legal do the deal to the city council on the resolution. So however you want to word it.
So, will you second it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
We don't have any other second, so.
Let's move it to legal, however you said it.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried unanimously. Okay, we're down to item number 10, consider approval of interim safe streets for all safety action plan to April 2024 city council. Yeah, who's taking this one?
I'll start and then pass it off to our vendor. Mr. Chairman, committee members, what you have before you is version 1.0 of our Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. So if you recall, the city received a federal planning grant from FHWA for a Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. We issued an RFP and retained Friesen Nichols to do that plan for us. They've been working on that since November, and they submitted like I said, version 1.0 for us to review. So our plan for this version 1.0 is we'd like to review it with committee here, ask for your approval to take it to city council, do the same presentation, review it with city council, and we'll be asking city council approval to submit to FHWA for their review and comment. Also, something else to consider with this, the Safe Streets for All has planning funding and implementation funding. The current cycle for implementation funding is open now. The due date for applications is mid-May. So we would like to discuss some of our options for implementation applications and get some feedback on what direction council might want to proceed with implementation applications. The benefit of us submitting our plan to FHWA in April is we'll get them to preview our plan and give us their blessing before we submit a potential implementation application. Friesen Nichols as a representative here, Kevin St. Jakes, who's been kind of the primary on plan development, and he's got a presentation that he'll run through on the plan that they've developed.
The floor is yours.
Thank you.
You can describe me or.
All right, so as James mentioned, this discussion has many facets to it. First, we want to share with you the safety action plan as it's been drafted and is in your packet for your review, and then kind of give you the lay of the land of the game plan as we move ahead with the plan, funding applications, finishing up a plan long term. So we'll lay all that out for you. Next slide. All right, so in the safety planning realm of things. We look at that addressing crashes, but we're really focused on those serious crashes, the fatalities, the serious injuries, and try to make sure that we have targeted efforts to try to reduce those, in addition to the overall safety program. High injury network is something that we map out where all the crashes are, and we identify, okay, here's some focal areas. We want to make sure we address those crashes that cause a lot of injuries, and where they're all kind of accumulating in the same area presents a problem that we can probably address with a few projects. Fatality and the pedestrian walking crossing is another focal area where we have a lot of not necessarily pedestrian deaths or things, but we have a lot of pedestrians that don't want to cross because it's too far to get to safe crossing or traffic's too busy or something. So addressing some of those areas of pedestrian crossings, pedestrian safety, bicycling safety, and safe routes to school, safe routes to parks. We have a trail system that needs to make sure all the crossings are safe. So all that comes into play when we look at the safety program. And then, so the final thing is using this plan as a basis for the implementation grant. And that's one thing that we started out knowing we were going to go after this round of implementation grants that we knew was coming up in May of 2024. So we started out in November. We had a target. We were going to hit that mark to have our safety action plan document ready and to say that, okay, we have our plan, we're ready to implement the plan, and that's what the federal government wants to do. They want to see people that have their plan ready for implementation. So we're getting ready to have it signed off. Okay, so we started early on with City Council passing that resolution. That's checkbox number 1 on the program of these 8 areas that have to be done to have your qualifying safety action plan. Leadership commitment and goal setting, the planning structure. We have our safety action steering committee running all the safety analysis, getting out the collaboration and engagement with the public, considerations for equity, making sure our improvements are widespread and really help to focus on some areas that generally get less attention. Policies and procedures, looking at how we do things and making sure we comply with federal guidelines and do things properly. And then looking at project selections. How do we focus on strategies and selection projects? And then at the end, making sure our process has been transparent. People are able to follow us along. We'll have a project website where people can see what has been done and what we're about to do, so everybody will be able to follow us. And then certain committees that will keep reporting back. This committee is one, reporting back to City Council, okay, we've had a safe action plan, we've applied for grant, we're doing this, and so making sure all the reporting happens over time. Next slide, just kind of, you know about the resolution that's been done, and so key to that, in checking the box that the federal government is going to be looking for, is that we resolve to eliminate traffic deaths by 2035 and reducing serious injuries by 50% by 2035. And so setting those goals and have those targets, that is one of the check boxes that's on the list, saying that, yes, this plan has a goal, has intended actions to meet those goals. So we meet number 1 of number 8 of the 8 items on our list. Second is the next slide. You want me to do that? Okay. The policy structure, the planning structure, we officially identified a steering committee to help guide the efforts and to serve as a touch point for all the programming, analysis and identification of projects. And so we have a host that is the steering committee, and the steering committee has signed on for engaging with this process through formulation, through the application of grants, making sure that the projects were done. So that committee is kind of overarching and looking over, and it consists of folks that have vested interest in this community being a safe community. Folks from the hospital, folks from community advocates are all kind of engaged in overseeing this process. And then this infrastructure committee is a part of the process of having a planning structure that plans and implements programs. So check box number 2 on two of 8. Third is a safety action planning process. We follow the process of identification of issues, looking at crash data, running through the whole program of mitigation measures and what works where. So we've identified a set of projects that engage the whole process and address the plans that we have for bike and ped, plans that we have for a strategic plan for the community, bring them all together and make sure the plan works with all of the different elements. Planning process is very important in the overall documentation. And so we've met with our steering committee throughout the whole process 3 different times to walk them through the area, looking at all the mapping of all the safety data, where it occurs, some of the focal areas of crashes. We looked at, where are all the alcohol-related crashes? Where are all the crashes that occur because it was identified as a dark intersection? Where are the right angle crashes? Where are the rear end crashes? What happens? Where are the focus areas? And then we cross-check that with, okay, where are the always stops? Where are the signals? Where are these other characteristics going on that are common that can be addressed strategically? Next. So Federal Highway Administration has a set of proven countermeasures where they've done years and years of analysis on what works where. And they've given us guidance to look at, I think there's 21 or so different proven safety measures where they've cataloged, if you do this, this will have a certain % reduction in crashes based on your conditions. So if you've got a lot of dark crashes, just putting a light out there at the intersection, proving that the visibility has a certain reduction factor. And so you can multiply the crashes by the volumes and come up with a reduction factor and figure, well, if I spend $5,000 on putting this light on, I'll get $20,000 worth of benefits. So you run those calculations and see where the low-hanging fruit is, what I can put in there for a certain amount of money. And it's a variety of things. Look at the signals. We have backplates to prevent the sun, so you can see the light a little bit, but if you have a yellow reflective edge around it, makes that head more visible. That has a certain percentage benefit. So all these small things that are not very costly can have great benefits. And so we are looking at the program of those improvements as a system-wide improvement set. And then some very focused projects to look at doing things. So next slide, a little bit about our systemic safety. Signage, pavement marking, signal edge, even signal timing. We looked at signal timing. A lot of crashes occur when you get red light running. Well, what causes red light running is maybe that yellow isn't quite long enough. And so people misjudge how long that is, how long it takes to get across the street. And so right now we're actually in the process of assessing those things. And that's something we can do internally with a very little cost, just in staff time, go down, look at, hey, this signal only gives 3 seconds to go through on a yellow. Let's give it 4. Let's lengthen that time to separate the traffic flows from this direction to that direction. Put another second of all red in there to kind of keep them separated. And so you'd be surprised how much of a benefit that will have for reducing the serious crashes. People, right angle crashes is probably one of the worst crashes you can have, even worse than head-on, because head-on you can kind of see it coming. Right angle, no warning. Hits you at side on and passenger's side or even the driver's side. A lot of deaths and serious injuries occur from those. So looking at these very, again, low-hanging fruit, things we can do, putting pavement markings along the edge of the road so you don't run off the road at nighttime, things like that. And so we looked at a host of these, and I can run through very quickly some of them. Next slide. We looked at appropriate site speed limits. We do have some very good speed limit set up coming into town. We bring them down to 45, we bring them down to 35, we bring them down to 25, but it's compliance, getting people to obey those speed limits. And so getting those strategically placed. Maybe we need a mid-step between 35 and 25 when they come into town, so bring them down to 30. That brings the energy down, and then they're easier to comply with some of the things. So again, some very easy things to do, but we're thinking psychology now, the driver psychology, and helping them help us to drive properly in that setting. We have a lot of areas that are, I think on the next slide, I did a little example of Main Street. So Main Street, as our development goes up, we had some higher speed areas that now we're getting to be more and more developed. And so we're saying, well, take that 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, and so let's bring it a little further out to cover these areas before we step it up to 40 and 45. Some small things to be done, just again, strategically thinking with the energy that's going on out there. Bring it down from 35, 30 intermediate in there, south of College, where you get into the 25-mile zone where you can start receiving that 35-mile energy down to 30. You've got a lot of driveways in that zone south of College. So bring it down to 30. Again, a very small thing to do that can have great benefits. And even east-west on Second, we've got 30, but we don't bring a 25 in there. So maybe bring out 25 being closer to the Main Street. Things like that. Next one. Ped bikes for some of the case matters. Bike lanes, we have a bike plan that suggests we do bike facilities on areas of the streets where we also have some wide 2-lane streets where if you have a wide 2-lane street, you have a lot more energy driving than if you put an edge line in there. Say I've got 11-foot lane, leave me 5 or 6 feet on the outside over here. All of a sudden I've got a constrained traffic calming device for the drivers. And I've got a de facto bike lane. And the bike lanes can sometimes be used by parkers and some depending what's needed in that area. But we've got, let's see, next slide down shows what was done on, I think it was Berendo. Well, they did that very same thing. There's a kind of wide 2-lane street. There's a edge line striping. Now you've got a kind of a parking lane, you've got a bike lane, you've got a narrow travel lane, and it's just by putting in a little bit of striping. It does wonderful things. You can, if the need in that area is to have like a left turn lane at a certain intersection, you can bring that over and bring in your left turn lane. But pavement marking, strong channelization really does calm that traffic down and help receive the energy and reduce crashes. But if you got something wider, you can put it in a buffered bike lane. Think of some areas around the school that has a very wide area. We could have our buffered bike lane where kids might be riding their bikes to school, things like that. Next one down is a little bit about some of our edge line striping. Again, let's show the next slide. There's several treatments, but the edge line striping, sometimes we might put in instead of a 4-inch wide, we put in a 6-inch wide edge line striping to really strengthen that edge, especially if you're gonna run off the edge of the road if you don't pay attention to that edge line. So going in with that in a rural type setting has a calming effect, knowing where that edge is. I can see visibly that I have a narrow lane to work with, and it tends to keep that traffic from going quite so fast. And again, you denote the edge where you're going to lose control if you go down that point. Next slide down. Again, these are all proven safety countermeasures. They've been implemented all over the country. They have very, very distinct benefits to them. The back plates around the signals, we talked about the yellow clearance intervals, we talked about even just putting in dedicated left and right turn lanes, even in a wide 2-lane street, having that channelization put in that left turn pocket, if that's the important thing for that area, can be done. A couple images of the back plates. If you go from this one to the next, here you've got signals that are just kind of out there. I've got one head instead of 2 on some of them. But if you go to the next slide, it shows putting the yellow reflective around the edges. Even in the brightness of daylight, the yellow helps a lot, but it's really effective at nighttime, helping to offset those. And you can see the reflective borders for quarter mile, half a mile away that there's something coming up. We talked a little about yellow change and all red intervals. There's a certain area you don't want to go too long on those yellows or too long on red because people start expecting to have a long term and they blatantly don't stop at a yellow when they could have. So you don't want to make them too long. So there's a reasonable range that we comply with. And all of this stuff is in the manual on uniform traffic control devices of how to do it, how to comply, how to apply these things. And channel left turn, we talked a little about that. Policy process, the next one down. we looked at standards for an all-way stop. There's a certain thing you're supposed to do according to the manual, you go on traffic devices of how to put in the all-way stops, especially. Put in an all-way stop. We have a variety of looks and feels of all-way stops, and if they were all standardized, everybody would know, hey, it's an all-way stop. Put a stop line, stop bar at all the stop signs, you'll know that, hey, this is kind of different. This is something unique that we're working with. So standardizing those treatments is part of things. Just even how we upgrade, how we apply for the all-way stops. When is an intersection too big for an all-way stop that we need to do something else? All these things, and then looking again at the policy and procedures of how we control all of our intersections. What's the trigger for going up to that next stage? Do we want to consider roundabouts or traffic signals and all these different things? And then, okay, so that's the standardization of all-way stops. Next slide. We'll try to go fast so we can not spend too long now. So you have plenty of time for questions. Right size in the all-way stop treatments. We do have, this is Alameda Lee, but big wide intersections, so it's hard to judge when you've stopped at your stop bar and this other guy's way over there. Who stops first and who's going to go, and one has a long distance to go through on that control, rather exposed going through large intersections. So maybe a candidate for a traffic signal, maybe an opportunity for a roundabout to kind of better control and manage that setting where everything comes into play. Some very specific recommended projects. Now, even we're gonna plan to do all these systematic projects. They're all in play, and we're in our implementation project that we will propose to federal administration for the Safe Streets for All implementation grant. It would be all of those systematic elements. Upgrade the all-way stops, put in backplates, put in the signal sign, put in the pitch line striping. That's kind of a baseline of those things. But then we want to look at some very special projects that looked at those high injury network elements, high injury intersections. 3 special projects. We have College Boulevard from Maine to Montana was just jumped off the page. There's a ton of crashes in a very short distance along this section. The next one was South Main at McGaffey Street, a very concentrated focal area of dozens of traffics all within a couple of block sections. So I love the focal area. And then 3rd Street and Main Street is kind of a special case, but it works functionally with the issue of congestion at 2nd and Main, and it's queuing up 4th Street and all the stuff. And so we have a concept for that. So I'd like to walk you through those real quickly. And then we can open up for some questions at the end. Okay, so College Boulevard, again, just about every intersection has crash. We looked at why is this going on? Well, you've got a 3-lane that goes down to 2-lane and then backs up to a wide 2-lane and then always stops. And so there's just a series of things going on there. So we input concept of how do we take a look at those? There's 200 crashes in 3 years. That's a ton of crashes. 38 that actually caused injuries. People who got hit had to be rushed to the hospital. That's the kind of thing we're talking. 38 crashes in just this 1 mile stretch. So that's a lot. Next slide. So it's next couple slides, just kind of walk you through some of the elements of the crashes. Let's go to the next slide. This first one, backwards just for a minute. The first one up on the right where you got Kentucky at College, that's kind of where 3-lane goes down to 2-lane. So a kind of a focus area of people just kind of rear-ending and causing problems at that location. Next one down, that's just a focus area. We have Union, around that's always stop concentration crashes. But even just throughout, there's just a host of small crashes on this core of driveways and things like that could benefit from having like a center turn lane. They can make it a 3-lane that starts at Main, making that 3-lane consistent all the way through to where we connect down to the 4-lane that's over at Montana. So that's the concept for this project. The next slide is it's going to get a standard 3-lane street. with a center turn lane up and down. Then we have something we can do when we get to the intersections. We have dedicated lefts and things going on. Some kind of storage area for people who want to turn left into driveways. And then we would supplement that with a 10-foot shared use path along one side that would bring the bike lanes on into this corridor that they could be then a shared use path to get over the main street. And a couple of things about the intersections that we would go to. There's down the next slide, a couple of concepts for when we get to Union. It's kind of big, those oversized intersections, got its own right turn lane, things like that. It's offset a little bit from the folks coming from the south. So a roundabout treatment is a candidate for managing the movements in that area. If you're not familiar with the roundabout, they help deflect the energy at the intersection. Folks coming in the roundabout, they usually are channelized to go about 20 or 25 mile an hour through the intersection. A couple of nice things is that if there's nobody else there, you don't have to stop a lot. You just kind of work your way through the intersection, go. But if there's someone stopped, the person who is in the roundabout has control. Everybody else coming in has to let them pass through. And you come on. It's all kind of a counterclockwise circulation. The angle of entry is very, very small instead of a right angle crash. And so if you do have crashes, misjudgments in timing and gaps, the crashes are minor. So these are serious crashes by putting in roundabouts. We get to Montana, we're a little bit kind of a different animal. We've got a transition from the 2-lane to a 4-lane. We've got some scenarios there that don't work well with the current configuration. It's a little bit big. We've got a force off right. We've got all sorts of things going on at that location where a roundabout would make an interesting application at that location to offset some of the energy there. But it's a concept, and most of these roundabouts can be done with traffic signals as well. They're just a little different animal. We like to do roundabouts where we have more of a neighborly setting. Everything stays calmer. When you get into something that's a little more aggressive traffic, we like to use a signal. Next slide down is Main and McGaffey. Now, Main and McGaffey was kind of, I read through the master plan for a community, and that's one of the targets was, let's do something about Main and McGaffey. That's been in the books for a while. And so our steering committee folks said, let's do something about Main and McGaffey. So we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what can be done about Main and McGaffey and what's the problem with Main and McGaffey and why is it the problem? We got too closely spaced signals that really make that cycle long. You have to wait for a long time to get through there, so people get kind of antsy about going, and then they try to get fast at the intersection because they don't want to wait again. So a lot of things going on at that. And plus, there's a very short distance. I don't know if you've ever come up 285 and hook the left on McGaffey, but that the left turn pocket just kind of sneaks up on you, and it's hard to get in the right. So pulling those intersections further apart was part of the solution you're looking at. And then what are some of the other movements going around? You got folks on Wilding and it covers the other streets east-west that have a hard time getting across these major north-south flows. And so come up with a solution that not only fixes McGaffey, but also serves the whole area collectively. Makes a lot of sense. And so our concept of this next slide is just, there's a bunch of crashes over there in Main and McGaffey. So it's kind of obnoxious, but that's the reality of what's going on out there. 26 injury crashes. That's a lot for just these two block intersections. Next slide down kind of shows you a little bit of what we came up with as the concept for working in this. I'm going to hit up here so I can point out a few things. Main and McGaffey stays this. Basically, if you're coming south on Main, you're going to split left and right just exactly as we do now. But if you're going north on Main, you come up here and at St. Mary's Place, you turn right, go to signal, and you turn left, and then you are with the flow of that traffic that is coming north. And so we modeled all this traffic. DOT folks went out and counted cars for us and gave us all the input. And so we've actually modeled this, sent it back to the DOT, and we have a meeting with them on Friday to talk about this whole concept. But we originally thought, well, we'll just kind of bring up here and turn left, but we would have had to take over Wildy and make it one way for a block, and that would have kind of messed with the overall circulation. So we have a better opportunity here at St. Mary's Place. It's kind of a street between neighbors that could be better utilized in helping to have folks get across. And then also putting a signal up there at Wildy so that we can have another east-west crossing in that area. And then that manages the energy volume traffic. We went right through it and modeled it. I stood up there at Subway sandwich shop for like an hour one afternoon, just kind of watched all the traffic. And the timing on this signal, it takes like almost 3 minutes to run through all of those different movements and you add all the traffic. When I model this, we can get that cycle at McGaffey down to just like 1 minute. And then so all the traffic moves and goes its places, and the delay and the queues are much, much shorter at McGaffey. And I said, well, I was curious about how long the backup would be at these areas where we diverted northbound Main Street, and they were there very short too. So the energy is dissipated by just having this northbound traffic go through a light here a little further away from McGaffey. And then it actually solves a lot of circulation issues as well. And then when we did that, then there was leftover pockets of things to do to actually accentuate circulation around the businesses that are between St. Mary's Place and Flowery, to give them more pockets. And then right now there's medians they're not supposed to cross because we've got a heavy north-south. And so now we can add more localized circulation into those businesses. And then overall becomes a very functional part of town.
Mr. Chairman, can I just, for a second, with this plan that you're looking at here, are you taking into consideration the new gas station and conveniences being built across the street from?
That's right here. And so that gas station here, we're actually putting this signal in right there will benefit those folks. Now they'll have a controlled frontage here instead of having challenges getting into and out of the gas station. We looked at the queue lengths here, and then they were manageable, maybe 6 or 7 vehicles during peak rush hour, PM peak rush hour of folks in here. So the driveway access and circulation, I think, would be benefited by this particular intersection that we're putting in here. So water. Right up here. And we'll be bringing this back to you next month. We're going to actually propose these 3 key treatments and actually the whole realm of the implementation grant. We'll bring for you for your approval at that point. But we want to preview with you these concepts so that you'll have them in your mind of what's going on and what we're thinking of trying to do. But we would add the strong channelization, raised medians kind of in this whole stretch to really, really focus folks at driving energy into those channels where they need to be, and people can very clearly see where their left turn needs to happen and have that storage space for them. We do have kind of a little bit of a roundabout kind of configuration here at where we have our diversion of St. Mary's, because we want to control some of the energy at that location. And then having a raised median up there where right now North Main comes into 285. We need to have the opportunity for enhancing and making that look better. Yes.
What is, I know where Wildy is, what is US 259?
I think that's missing. That should be 285.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah. That's 285. Okay. And I'm sorry, I had to get a deal from Washington, but So your northbound traffic on South Main is diverted at St. Mary's Place. Where's it diverted to?
It's diverted over to 285. This section of St. Mary's Place is about 40 feet wide. Enough room to have 2 eastbound lanes, 1 westbound lane, and that would handle all the traffic. Right now, you have 2 lanes feeding up here and going through. You have 2 lanes feeding to this point, and then 2 lanes carrying everything northbound. It's
So there won't be an entrance into Main Street except on there won't be a southeast Main Street into anywhere, won't enter into Main Street.
There'll be a secondary point of entrance. If you went through this and didn't use the normal channelization, but you chose to go up here to Wilding, another opportunity to take a left and continue up there. And that serves all this local area more directly here. The high energy, the folks that want to go north and get north up here and get into downtown, that would choose this 2-lane channelization up at this location.
So I apologize, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Well, I'm just getting at, you're taking away the people going north on Southeast Main. You're gonna make, they're all having to turn left at
285, yes.
At 285 or at?
Here, they'd all go northbound and then go eastbound on St. Mary's Place to the signal. And then they'd have their signal to continue north on 285, which then merges into Main Street.
No,
Yeah, I don't, you know, that's all 5 points there has always been an issue. I don't know that, going back in history, I don't know that would be sellable, but I don't know.
I have a simulation of this, so we'll show you next time when we present the packet to you. We'll be sharing it with the DOT folks on Friday. But it shows that in the base condition where we have the existing, the queue extends all the way back to Windy base, Wildy. And then you've got twice, we've reduced the delays in the queues by 50% when we do this treatment, which reduces the congestion in front of the shopping center north of McGaffey, reduces the queue lengths on McGaffey, it reduces queue lengths going north. It gives you a better left turn bay going northbound at McGaffey. Does a lot of things for you by pulling this intersection away from there. The first concept was to just bring it here. This enhanced concept kind of works with better circulation for this whole area.
and the Dion's.
Yeah. All right, yes.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding. So basically you're going to redirect traffic. So by moving that light down, you're going to redirect traffic. So they wouldn't normally be able to go back into that, straight, except for the streets that actually deposit into it. Are you going to actually block off the street so that no one can go straight from that light, the first light, the top light?
Yes, this one here that was right there.
Yeah.
The
You're moving
light will
it
not be
down.
there anymore. And we'll basically block off that small stretch of northbound there. The northbound movements, if you want to get in this area, you have your lane of movement, you have turn bays into the drive them. But once you get to where Subway is,
Right.
that would block off northbound. But everything up until Subway has full access to even better access than it had before.
Okay. It's going to take me a minute to digest all that.
Yes.
Because that's pretty intense. So I'll look forward to the simulation.
So quick question, have you spent much time talking with the county about this? Because you've got the sheriff's department that's right there, you've got all the county stuff, that this is gonna have an effect on the county offices and the sheriff's department.
It will have a certain degree of impact on them. Some Some actually would be improved because of the signal and the crossing. But yes, we're gonna, this traffic is the same as it was before. The new traffic comes across here. So in effect, that will put a little more traffic past their main entrance drive here. But the queues will not back up and block their entrance.
And Counselor, if I may interject just for a second, we wanted to preview it with you guys before we did a whole lot of outreach to county and the businesses. We wanted to bring it here first.
Well, public safety, I mean, the county is one thing, but when you've got the sheriff's department that's right there so I think that there ought to be some real discussion with those guys on what their thoughts are on this plan.
Absolutely.
They just turn their lights on when they're going out anyway and turn on the siren.
And when they pull that big tank out.
Let's go to the next slide. The third of our concepts we wanted to share with you is 3rd Street and Main Street. Right now, it's a very congested area, being 2nd and 4th. Push southbound in the afternoon is particularly troublesome as far as queuing and backing up. Surprisingly, looking at the crashes, at 3rd and Main, there's 18 crashes, just this one tiny little section. I didn't think there was much at all going on there, but a lot of it's due to the backing up and things that are kind of interfering in the middle there. 41 crashes, 13 injuries here at 2nd is not surprising, although it is high. One of the things we were talking with the folks at DOT, and they were talking about, well, if we got rid of a signal, and they've been talking, I guess, to the downtown folks about getting rid of a signal in this area for a while. We could have better progression and have a better storage lengths and all sorts of things. And so we looked into that a little and came up with a concept to address some of that, and we'd like to share that with you on the next slide. The concept of essentially taking the turning capability, putting a raised median there, crossing over 3rd. And then that would let you have a little bit longer turning bays going south and north. It would let you have better progression between 2nd and 3rd Street because you wouldn't have traffic coming across and you wouldn't have to stop that traffic. One of the things we looked at, so once you did that, then what else could you do? You could have right in, right out circulation for the side streets on 3rd, or you could do something kind of unique, is have a truncated part of 3rd that would leave just this half block for localized circulation, localized parking, but you wouldn't come across this pedestrian crossing at 3rd. And then you could have kind of one-sided right-angle parking because the street's wide enough to turn in head-on parking instead of the 2 sides of curbside parking. So you'd actually have what would feel like better service to the business right along the side because they got head-in parking right at their business. And then you could have a little plaza area right at the end. That's kind of a no-car zone right up next to the pedestrian crossing of Main at 3rd. And would also give you some swing space on the weekends. We could put up bollards at the end of the street so traffic wouldn't get in there because this then would already blocked up, and you could have a celebration plaza or something that would happen in that space. And all that just because we are going to benefit the safety along and operations on Main between 2nd and 4th. We can do all these other things as well. So it lets us to kind of work with our own benefit as well as enhancing the safety of the corridor. Again, another concept will just take a minute to sink in, but has great potentials. We've shared it with the downtown group, and they seem to think it would be a great idea. The next step is to let the cat out of the bag and talk with the business owners and all the other folks that would be interested and see what the implications are.
Well,
one of the things that we need downtown, I don't know if second to fourth is enough. I mean, at least first, because, you know, when you look, what we need more than anything else in Roswell is a pedestrian management plan and a way to make pedestrian traffic work. It's, if you cut across Third Street and stop that from having being a light there or something, it can probably create some hardship for merchants on those.
The next slide.
Okay.
It's kind of a concept of what that would look like. Because the light would still stay in there for stopping traffic at Third, but it would be green all the time until a pedestrian wanted to come up and cross the street. And then the pedestrian would push the button, lights would turn red, head would go across, but there would be no more indications on Third Street for cars to go in and out on Third Street. So that would be part of, I mean, it's a relatively low cost street, but you're just kind of putting in some raised angels in the middle, low protection at the end here. And then you've got yourself a plaza with some striping and other enhancements.
Well, and what you have though, on some of that, when you, on the people moving is one thing, but one of the problems we have is all the streets on the alley, which is where a lot of the people are going to end up, is going down the alley. And on the Richardson side, a lot of the buildings go right up to, I mean, the sidewalk and the buildings go right together like that, and there's very little place where you can look and see if anybody's coming. I guess if you cut off the whole street, and you don't have to worry about that somewhat. But then they go down to Second Street, and Second Street is, whenever there's a stop sign, it's or a stoplight, it's bottled up and you can't turn out of the alley. And so there's, it just creates a lot more problems there somewhat. But if you look about it's really hard to me to see how you can't, because we get 800 people a day or something like that, 750 or 800 people a day go into the Alien Museum. And where do they shop? 90% of their shopping is probably north out of that out of the alien store, out of the museum. And they shop up and down both sides of Main Street. And so I don't know, that's going to take some sell a little bit on.
Well, we think about that enhancement of the pedestrian area walking just across. This will now be free flow for pedestrians. There won't be any cars in the way. You want to navigate across traffic going up and down Main Street across Third. So Second to Fourth is all kind of pedestrian zone on the sidewalks. And you have the enhanced crossing at Third that's maintained.
Did you consider this concept before the county announced their cultural park on right there by the railroad tracks?
We didn't consider that coming into play. You see how that whole entity would work together.
That's between 4th and 5th Street.
It's kind of over there. It's again enhancing the whole attraction of walkability of that whole area. So, Third, if Third could become a pedestrian conveyance along there, rather than get people off a Second, and they could go up on Third and they up along that area. I mean, 4th is wonderful, 5th is wonderful. And so all those east-west streets could be enhanced with pedestrian movements that's safer. Better accommodations. It already has good accommodations once you get to the signal, you got your push button, you got your countdown, you got all sorts of cool stuff. But it's the battle with the cars that we need to kind of help mitigate some of that energy on that end of things. Now there's opportunity. Once you get in, have a little proof of concept of having this work, then you can look at First Street. Okay, what can we do with First Street now? It's got a different energy, different needs down on First. But you could think about, well, what if we did the same kind of treatment at first? We got a lot, that's closer to the museum, but you quickly get out of that whole touristy environment into more servicey end of things. So it's got a different vibe down there at first, but we could then be thinking about, could we and bring that pedestrian enhancement a little further south second and make things work down there. So we won't begin at the beginning. We're not going to reinvent this whole city overnight, but we can try to work on some focus areas. And then let's go ahead and go to the last two slides because they're important. So at the game. So we've been meeting with our advisory committee and so we're presenting the packet and presenting all this things to you about the safety action plan and its report. And so we'd like your feedback on the report and see if we can enhance it a bit. Because we're going to bring that to the city council on the 11th, and we'd like to with your permission. And on the 17th, pre-submittal of the safety action, what we're going to call the safety action plan. Now, we're going to be working on the safety action plan all the way through the end of this year. But what we'd like to do is for this April 17th pre-submittal of our safety plans to the federal government so they can say, yes, you may now submit for a implementation grant. We'd like to have the official approved safety action plan coming out of April 11th council meeting. So we're going to ask for them to at least sign off on, yes, this is the safety action plan as far as it goes for now. And then we're going to have version 2.0 to take a look at later on in the year. So we're going to keep adding to and enhancing and maybe come up with a longer list of potential treatments. But we want to focus on hitting the mark on their 80 ingredients of an allowable safety action plan, make sure they give us a sign off, because on the next slide is the schedule for the implementation grant. May 16th is our target that we want to hit, which means back it up by May 9th, we have to have the city council resolution that they would put up the 20% match for whatever program we put together. And we can talk about how big that can be. So you back it up there, we plan by April 22nd to present back to this infrastructure committee the implementation grant application. But what the ingredients are, how much they're costing, what's the overall program, what is the local match requirement, which means we back that up and we have to have our first draft to James by the 5th, basically by the end of next week. So we're working frantically to get all these things in line, set up to be successful to get that implementation grant application in on time.
May I ask, is that the deadline for that grant, May 16th?
May 16th, yes. That's the deadline for getting that. There are other deadlines if you don't want to apply for an implementation grant. We could apply for more study. We could actually apply for supplemental planning grant for grants. If we didn't feel we were ready to go after an implementation grant. There's another deadline in August that we could actually put in for May 16th application. They could say, no, you're not ready. And that would give us time to put in for the August last deadline for the supplemental planning grant. Yes.
How we get the feedback from the public?
From the public, we've already gotten feedback on safety needs. What we haven't got back is to show and tell the plan before May 16th. We'd like to have the opportunity to do that. So the approved plan, because the plan has been through the online survey, we've presented at PTA meetings. So we've gotten people's input on what are some of the critical needs and what are things we want to do. We've got partnership with the DOT on what they would love to have us do as part of our grant. And I'll be talking to them about how important it is that you guys to have us do the grant for you. So we've got a lot of input. The thing we'd like to do is circle back on the safety action plan. And we have all the time this year to circle back on the official safety action plan. Till the end, November, I think is our target to submit that draft, updated final safety action.
I'm wondering how you get the feedback on the roundabouts versus the four-way stops or traffic lights versus, the different options that are available.
Yeah, that's available. And we had been planning to do public meetings, big public meetings. And we chose instead to use smaller groups to get more pointed feedback on some of the things we wanted to do. But the opportunity to circle back and do some bigger public meetings where we get broader input. Again, we publish a second online survey to introduce the projects and the potential treatments back to the folks that want to see what we've done with their input. That's kind of a typical thing to circle back on. So actually, if we can focus on getting the grant together and proposing that we do things, and then once we get funding to do things, that's the opportunity to go back and say, okay, now we've got funding to do things. Here's the draft of the treatment. What do you guys think? So, we don't like roundabouts. So we're going to do traffic signals instead. Signal, roundabout, they cost about the same. So when we put in a grant money, the placeholder is there to do what seems to be done.
If I may, I actually love the idea of the whole thing. Now, actually, I'm going to take that back because I'm still thinking on the one down there. But here's where I see the dilemma. Okay, you have a council of 10, and they're going to get stuck on about 3 of those and never get past those 3. So even though in my mind, I understand this is not concrete, these are conceptual. Okay, but what I'm feeling is that a word can hang up 10 people. So that is a lot of meat and potatoes there to take on. And I don't know that you'll get your deadline in your approach. I'm not sure what to say to that, but I feel like you should have more of a workshop with the council that's open to the public and a little more education process, because it's going to take them 2 or 3 times hearing it over and over to begin to either have worked through it or digest it, even on the concept that those are not concrete ideas. So that's just my 2 cents, and maybe advising that if you want this to move.
And what we could do is, sure the program focuses on the safety aspects of things, the announcements done, the host of countermeasures that can be done, systemic improvements that can be done. Oh, and by the way, we've come up with a few concepts that we put in the appendix of the report, and you can read that at your leisure. We can focus that way, and that might get them through the idea of approving an interim safety action plan pending further assessment, further feedback, further everything.
Well, it kind of goes with the saying that sometimes more is not better, it's just more.
Yes.
Yes. So conceptually, yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
There are a lot of different things in this, and it'd be so easy to get hung up. She's right on getting hung up, because that could happen from the merchants on one place to the other about being cut off. That's what's always happened on the 5 points intersections on South Main, Southeast Main. We don't have a lot of roundabouts here, so a lot of people don't really look at them with good favor. And maybe it's just because we don't have any, but I'm going to tell you, they don't look at them with good favor. And so, and I would be extremely reluctant to even think you were going to pass this on April the 11th if there's not some more public input into this thing. Yeah, I mean, it might be summer almost, but your snowball's already melted if you're going to be looking at that, because I just think there's going to need to be a lot more discussion. we might have a pretty good cart on April the 7th already full. But, or April the 2nd, but Maya thought might be a good idea to add that to April the 2nd. Our workshop that we have then, there's some pretty good issues that could get people probably going by then, but I would hate to bring this to the council before it's been in the newspaper and people in the city have seen this. I would hate to do that. I think that might, you'll get a lot of naysayers because people don't just look at it and say, oh, that'll screw me up. And they won't look about the other side. The people that are walking, most of the people are doing our downtown traffic that are walking down there are guests. And the people driving are driving and they have different purposes. The drivers are to get to one place to the other and the other ones are shopping and looking around. So there's a lot of the people involved are doing two different things. Some are getting through and the others are walking around looking, doing and buying. And so I think we have to be careful with that, but there needs to be more public explanation about what's going on and a better diagram. I mean, an ad in the paper or something that's large enough that could, where you could talk and point out each different section that you talk about where to go. I mean, there are some things the 3rd Street thing has a lot of merit and it's about pedestrians making going between 2nd and 3rd, but getting across from 1st Street to 2nd and 3rd is always an issue too. And so it'd be interesting. When we tried the 5 points before, it seemed like that nobody could ever sell doing away with the Yaffe and Main deal not being 5 points. Either there was enough complaints about the businesses that are over there, the car dealership and the subway and all that stuff, but there might be some issues with that. But it's.
Mr. Mayor, I think this one with this much information, I mean, it's a lot to take in.
I know.
Just with this, I think would deserve if we're going to go a workshop, deserve a workshop specifically for this topic, because the one that we're having on the 2nd, I think it's being, we're going to be limited to about an hour and a half. Am I correct?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then we have to have a special meeting right after the workshop?
For action.
Take action on the
Skate park?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you put this one on top of the one that we have, I think it,
I mean, it might be making that too busy.
yeah.
Yeah, and I can agree with that, but I don't know about I don't know how we could get to that. The May 16th date would be difficult, it seems to me, to file that application grant list.
Well, you can always have a workshop the same week of the council meeting, but like on Monday or Tuesday. I mean,
Sure.
even though we'll be having a lot of meetings in
That's
April.
actually a good point. You could actually do it that Monday or whatever, and then have a city council meeting where we vote on it, but that's a good way. And even more of a town hall, city council, or something like that. And then that way, when we go to the actual council meeting, everybody's informed. And I do want to say, if we manage to get a roundabout, which would be very exciting because I have enjoyed them, I'm going to put up bleachers on the intersection for entertainment purposes, because I think us Roswellians would have a great time.
The only problem that you have with
What-
that is Councilor Corn is going to deny any money to be spent.
Absolutely, yes.
So real quick, that's one of my questions real quick as we look at this. Okay, we put in for the implementation grant we get it. What is going to be the city's obligation as far as funding for some of these projects? I mean, is this going to be something that the federal government's going to pay for to do this? Or are we going to be the ones that are going to be physically responsible for paying for it?
The grant comes with a 20% match requirement. So 80% of the project is funded by federal government, 20% by non-federal funds. So we could ask, for example, New Mexico DOT, well, it improves your 285 project as much as it serves city project. Why don't you put up half of our 20% match for this thing?
Right.
And so as long as it's non-federal monies that are matching the grant money from the feds, then it's all fair game.
Well, they would benefit a great deal more than, because they have all kinds of money and we don't. So you don't ever stop at just put up half. They can put 80%.
Well, they could
Or 90, you know, I mean, they would do 20% of that.
Yeah.
They can put 80 of our 20.
Chair, may I ask? Sure. The upload implementation grant application. So what are the specific requirements of that grant application? Meaning, do you have to have written quotes, et cetera? So you would have a little bit of play and a little bit of leeway on your concept in that.
A reasonable cost estimate of what you expect the project to do. Perfect. With a reasonable definition of what it is you're trying to accomplish.
So there could be some flexibility by that May 16th date. Thank you, sir.
So can we kind of give a ballpark figure of what the 20% would be?
Well, sure, and a few kind of parameters. The implementation grant program asks that there be a minimum of like 2.5 million for your project coming in. They've already told us that they want to fund as many projects across the country as they can, so they've asked, we'll give bonus points for anybody that comes in with less than 10 million project. And so, we were thinking, well, something in the middle, so about a $5 million ask would be about $1 million non-federal match. So we're starting to put some numbers together, share with James on kind of a little spreadsheet of what we think we got going on. We priced out, if we did everything we just presented to you, all those 3 projects and all the systemic, it's almost $10 million to do all that. And that includes like taking 5 of the bigger always stops and putting signals around Los Angeles. So all that stuff, about $10 million. So but that'd be $2 million. But if DOT comes up with $1 million and local's $1 million, then is that workable? So let's start talking, I guess, with finance about what's a workable local funding mix that we have. We'll talk with New Mexico DOT hopefully on Friday about what are you guys in for? What's it going to take to get to town? Now, the deal cannot be co-sponsor with us. City has to be the sponsor. DOT can write letters of support. They can say, we'll fund part of your 20%. They can do all sorts of things. Yes.
So how long are you looking at these 3 items and some of the things you're wanting to, what time frame are we talking about? Like a 5-year project? Because I'm probably going to be very frank at this point because you're moving forward. I think your 5 points is going to be extremely hard to sell, and fiscally even. I think we would probably do a lot better to focus on 3rd and Main Street. You'd have success there. The roundabout or a traffic solution for College and Union, because I go through that all the time, and it just, the 4-way is confusing. So, but I think fiscally and getting things in a timely manner, I think you're adding a lot by that 5 point. I think by focusing on those 2, I can see this, but the 5 point I think is where because of the amount, and there again, the money thing is another. So those are just my thoughts. I get what your conceptual thing, and I understood what you were trying to accomplish there, but I'm at a 30,000 foot, and that one's going to be a hard one. And so Anyway, my apologies. Please go.
No problem.
Mr. Chair,
Go
may I
ahead.
ask a question? So you're thinking that maybe the city needs to put up $2 million?
Well, I don't think we're thinking that. We're targeting more like a city $1 million kind of frame. I think if we came up with a $2.5 million to meet the minimum, and that means we're talking a couple $100,000 worth of local match. That'd be fine too. That would just accomplish less, but we could focus that on, if the city council says, we'll put in $200,000 and you guys figure out how to make it work. And we go in with a $3 million ask on projects, and we would accomplish all the baseline, which is like $500,000. And then we put in main and third, and we put in whatever we can do on college and call it good.
And it has to be the city.
Well, the city, it can't be the state. The states are not allowed.
I'm
to
talking,
apply, but the
Roswell
city
is
would
in
be-
Chaves County.
Well, the county also could contribute. So there's no, but the city, it has to be a local government, an entity of the state, which has to be the sponsor. So it could be the city and the county.
Can Rita donate money?
She can actually make some killer pecan brittle that she could sell and get us some funding.
Fundraiser.
Yeah.
I fundraise, yes.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
You'd have to pay grocery receipts tax.
Mr.
The
Mayor,
city, not to the county, because it's a lot less.
But I live in the county.
It's not my problem.
Mr. Mayor, in my opinion, I think this is more of a reason to have a workshop
Yes.
when you have the finance committee members especially there.
Yep.
Yes.
Because if we're not gonna be able to sell it to go through the finance committee, it's not going anywhere. In my opinion. So I think it's extremely important that we have a workshop and get as many counselors there, especially the ones that serve in the finance committee. And see what kind of reaction that we get.
Oh, yeah, you look at your calendar and what's
Timeline wise, we got these two things kind of moving. We've got the safety action plan, and that's something that has a shorter timeline. We can actually take those three projects, we're kind of in the appendix of the plan, we could take those out of the plan for now. And the plan would just then have the city's resolution and a report on the public engagement, everything that would support those 8 things that are required.
As far as
Annual.
planning
As far as the planning grant.
and us just approving a plan to move forward for you to guys come up with a plan.
Well, yeah. Okay. Move forward with the, kind of recommend the adoption of just the plan. Don't recommend any projects out there. They're recommending moving forward with the plan. Maybe strip away the mention of those 3 specific projects out of that plan document. Just for presenting the plan, it meets the 8 criteria. It had public engagement, it has a resolution, it had a steering committee, it had all the key ingredients. But we're not saying in that plan exactly.
Okay.
Plan will say, we got 20 things we'd love to do, and that's all the plan body says.
And then after that, have several public forums, city council forums.
Workshops. all
Yes,
sorts of
okay.
things. Yeah.
Because I can bite that. That's where I was kind of concerned, because what you're asking, what we're actually here to move forward, I'm comfortable with without a workshop. However, just sticking to giving you the go forward to actually take your plan, I can do that without the concrete mentions of specific projects.
You could do that.
You agree, sir?
Really, when you look at this, I mean, maybe back in August, we might be able to make a decision. If you stop and think about what we're doing, number one, we have to pass all to do any of this stuff. we're gonna have to pass all those increases. And then we're gonna have to sit down and know how much money we're gonna have coming in, to how much money we're gonna have to spend. And to make this $1.5 million or $2 million grant or whatever. I'm just saying we're too far, our funds are too tight and too, I don't want to sound like Bobby, but we don't have the cash right now to do that. I mean,
But I don't think you have to actually come up to with that, because that final vote is like in November. So we would have a better idea of what we could accomplish.
Well,
We're correct, or?
okay. First is just a plan without, all the detail on the 3 big projects. The plan is the plan, and it's got 20 some odd or 30 things you could do in part of the implementation of strategies. And it's just the plan. Out of that, when we do our implementation grant, there had to be mention of those things, and they're all mentioned in those 20 some odd things that we can be done. We went a little further and put them in the appendix, and we can strip it out of the appendix for this version of the plan. So there's no detailed recommendation of all that South Main and McGaffey and all that detail stuff. But it is a line item, has a little tiny paragraph in the implementation chapter of the plan. So we can strip out the detail 3 chapters, just keep the guts of it as the main plan that would go forth for this interim approval on the 11th, that we could then share with federal government on the 17th. They give us the green light to go after our implementation grant. And then the implementation grant, somewhere between now and May 16th, we want to have workshops and circle back with public presentation of the concepts and those things. That gives us time before May 16th to get all those circle feedbacks in place.
So it's not that urgent that we have a workshop before the April the 11th meeting?
No, we don't have to push it
Okay,
back.
so right now it's just present to council and say, here's a plan we want you to approve.
Yeah, because with your advice, we're not gonna do the deep dive into all the things that could be done.
Okay.
We're gonna save that for other.
Community, yes. Okay.
So committee members, do you have any further questions? Or anybody in the public have any questions? Anybody online have any questions, concerns? I'm sorry, are you finished?
I'm finished. You thought you were an hour 3.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you implement a plan, you vote the plan, but you never do anything with the plan.
It's on the shelf like half the other stuff in Roswell.
We have master plans, we have lots of plans, but.
And that's why the 2 upfront steps are very important. You got a council resolution that says you're going to do something to reduce crashes, reduce fatalities, reduce injuries by 2035. That gives us 10 years or so to get there. But we have to be working towards it. You have a steering committee that is charged with looking out for and making sure things are progressing.
So you're actually saying you're going to do something?
We're going to do something. In these next 10 years, we're going to do something.
FHWA, when they look at a lot of these plans, I think they look at them and they're more willing to provide those plans later on in the year because we've already done this research to implement that.
Yes.
So at the city council, I guess we can have the discussion of a possible workshop once the plan is, if it is passed at city council, then we can come back and look at a workshop between and sometime in April.
So, if I may, I'm sorry, since we moved infrastructure, it'll be on the 15th of April. So if we still did the workshop on the 8th, or we could do the workshop on the 8th, it's been to city council, have the workshop, and then it's back to infrastructure. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, what I'm understanding is we're being asked to move this item to city council to approve a plan with no specifics, no dollar amounts, no nothing. And then after the 11th, then we'll start having workshops for the second phase. I guess I would call it second phase of the implementation, which would be sometime in April, between April and May.
Correct. Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess with this is that 10 years is a long period of time. We're putting a plan together. And if you get Hess to put together a resolution that is really pretty broad, that we plan on doing something for safe streets and reducing crash stuff, by the time 2035 comes along, we can implement whatever comes out of this plan, still meet the needs. But this is not something that is set in concrete, but that we can move forward with the planning and then put the plan on the shelf. But by 2035, we're going to have to do something to show that we did our due diligence to make our streets safer.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
you don't think that we should at least let legal know on the 28th of this month and then finance on April 4th?
No.
Before city, no, you're gonna keep them in the dark?
Oh, they're not.
No,
There's no money involved with this.
Yeah.
I know there's no money involved, but we all know and we all love Bobby and Ed. But I think they should maybe be aware that this might come down the pike
well, they will be,
Let's just send it.
they will be aware.
at the city council
At
meeting.
city council meeting.
Okay, but you got,
That way it'll give them an opportunity to get prepared.
You can send it to finance and they'll both be aware of it.
well, you're right, or you could send it to, I want to sell popcorn for that. I'm serious.
Oh, peanut brittle, not popcorn.
Pecan brittle, okay, but if you leave out legal, I mean, we know who's on the legal committee and we know basically who's on the finance committee. Maybe we should just give them a taste so we don't block them out totally,
But
because I
they,
don't think they're online.
they could also, but they could be watching an infrastructure committee meeting. And that's, I mean, that's the importance of watching all of it. I know you're looking at me like that's crazy, but I mean,
Well, you got legal coming up Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
We have a city manager that can talk to them and make sure that they're well aware of what this is and give them the packets to see. And so that they'll have that awareness before the city council meeting.
Okay, you bought life insurance, huh, Chair?
I'll be chair. I'd be happy to communicate that with legal and finance. But I think the critical thing is you're right, we need a workshop. And that way we can get a little more feedback and tailor this before May 16th to have a strong concept that can bring home the money.
So with that said, can I have a motion to move this one forward to full council?
And Mr. Chairman, if I might interject, if that's the way we want to move, I would ask in your motion, you say to remove appendix C, D, and E. So that'll strip out all the.
All the money attachment.
Yes, sir. Correct.
okay, so you're saying make a motion to move it to city council or to workshop? Because I can't,
My understanding was city council because it
yeah.
doesn't have
right,
any monies attached to it.
okay, so,
Sure.
We don't have to go now before, we have to go to finance and to legal before it goes to city council with the new, with the new resolution that just passed.
But just for,
this is just the plan. And I don't,
No money involved.
no money involved.
Well, we can take it out of our house and send it to legal and finance, but.
Legal's already, or we already posted legal's agenda, so we have to go.
Right.
So it's a fine, that's a fine point. And you've got the chair of finance, chair of legal on there. and Sheriff Finance, if you feel like it needs to go to another committee,
That doesn't make,
you should send it.
well, it doesn't make sense because there's not money involved.
I would concur with you on that, but if that's what the resolution that was passed says, then that's what we do.
Well, I don't.
I mean, if we have to follow that resolution to the letter, then we cannot take action on this one because legal, I mean, it's just Thursday and you don't have enough time to add it. I mean, you have enough time to add it to finance, but you wouldn't have time to add it to legal. So it would be your call as the clerk, I would think. And in my opinion, because it doesn't have, there's no money attached to it, and there's no contract that's being drawn up that would be a legality.
Yep.
That's the way I would see
I
it.
concur with what you're saying, but what I am saying is that if within that resolution, what Amaya is saying, that it has to go to one of these others, then it is what it is. Send it to the other.
We can send it to finance.
Yeah. Does it have to go to both or
It
just
does.
one of
So
them?
it says, section 238, committee referrals to the city council. In order for the proposed action to go before the full governing body, the action must be passed by the most applicable committee and referred to and passed by either the legal or the finance committee or on any financial or legal consideration. However, if not sent to the governing body by two committees with a written notice from the city clerk, five councilors and the mayor may put it on. So that's where it needs to be passed by both committees.
So that considered moving forward, when you have deadlines like that, that's a huge issue. Anyway,
So if we pass it by this committee, then it just needs one more committee to go to, right? Right, so we pass it and pass it on to finance, and so now you have those two committees.
Right.
Or we can find 5 city councilors, so
Correct.
the mayor chicken ran out, so.
I don't know if I agree with any of that.
So in your opinion, if we send it to legal, to finance with a consideration of approval from infrastructure, that would suffice.
City council.
So we'll just move it forward to,
With our approval, we'll move it forward to finance, and then if finance approves it, then it goes full city council, unless finance doesn't approve it, and then we can have the mayor or 5 city councilors approve it to go to full.
So I'm understanding, is everything literally that we're going to be doing here going to just be going to legal? And because what's the point? We should just have them.
Every committee from what this is, and
That's not how I understood it. I would not have voted for something because then that tells me there's no reason to have any other committee than a legal or a finance. It makes no sense at all.
and I am of the same opinion. I thought it was anything that dealt with monies
Or anything that was a contract,
Yep.
because this isn't
Then you would
contractual.
have to send it to
But
one or both.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but that's.
Can you read it one more time, City Clerk? Because that's not the way I understand it. If there's a financial component, it must go to finance. If there's a legal component, it must go to legal. I think what's critical is that we have a plan. And the plan at this point doesn't have dollars attached or resolution or legal language attached. So I think the better way would be to do a workshop, but maybe I'm missing something in the language.
So section 242, infrastructure committee, it says the infrastructure committee shall review and consider policies that affect operations of the various departments of the city, other than those departments which fall under the public safety committee, including recommending policy changes regarding the provision of city services, fee structure, and its operational hours. The infrastructure committee shall also review and consider the award of bids and proposals solicited by the city as requested by the policy resolutions. The infrastructure committee shall propose capital improvement. Okay, so let me go back up to the other. Generally, in order for a proposed action to go before the full governing body, the action must be passed by the most applicable committee and referred to and passed by either the legal or finance committee. On any financial or legal consideration, however, if not sent to the governing body by two committees.
Okay,
It does specifically say if it has financial
or
or
legal.
legal.
This does not have
Consideration.
any of that.
Mr. Chair, before it gets there, it says the most appropriate committee. And so I think we're in good shape with what we were thinking originally.
With you giving that explanation to legal and finance without having this for finance.
But
Okay.
I would recommend we have a workshop.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
that's.
That's what I think we're missing. We need some feedback.
But I think once this one goes to council and then we have a workshop and then the issues of the monies and legalities and what have you will come out.
Correct.
And at that time, we will refer from this committee, we'll refer to legal and finance.
So I'll make a motion, but I'm actually going to say that all this is asking me is if to move it to city council. The actual concept of a workshop is actually, and I'm not trying to be blasé about that, but that is actually not my current focus. The workshop is something that the mayor or someone from admin can actually call. I'm focused on getting it to council so we have life breathed into it. If you want to have a workshop prior to that or after that, that's all fine and dandy. But for the sake of getting the plan moving because of the hard work of 13, 14 different members of our community, I'm going to make a motion to approve the interim safe streets for all safety action plan, amend it by removing appendixes C, D, and E to be presented to the April 2024 city council meeting.
I have a motion.
Go ahead and second that.
Second, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Look at who walks in at the best time. That was beautiful. Great timing.
You need to say aye.
Say yes.
Okay,
Okay. Did I get a night?
we do.
I did.
Okay.
We all had.
I did. Yes.
You came in at the tail end of the discussion and we just thinking of a motion to send to city council for a plan only of what's it called, the
streets.
Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
We just, the vote was 3 to, I'm gonna say 0 because you weren't here for the vote.
Yes.
So we'll go on to the next one. Item number 12, recommend award ITB 2408 Hubs Street Mill and Field Project to Constructors Incorporated in the amount of $2,346,349.54, which includes GRT.
Actually, 11.
Is it 11?
Item 11,
We're
sorry.
skipping 11, but let me ask a quick.
I'm sorry.
So would it be to your approval if we made a motion to take 11, 12, and 13 and recommend them just go to finance? Because they're all dealing with money.
They're all dealing with money,
That's
yep.
my point. So that's your call as chairman, but if you're good with that, I'll make that motion. And
It doesn't matter to me because, I mean, they're the ones that are going to dig in detail.
That's my,
And so if the council or the committee is okay with that, I'm okay with it, and we can do that. And then if you want to hear in details, then we can attend the finance committee.
Agree.
So we got a motion by Counselor Kevin to send to finance items 11, 12, and 13.
you need me
I'll
to say
second.
all those or?
I'll second. I understand exactly what that,
You got the wording?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll make the motion to reflect item 11, 12, and 13. So is there any discussion on any of the three items?
no, not on my part.
And if not, then well, we already have a motion and a second, so we'll go, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried, and item 11, 12, and 13 will go to finance. And now we come to public participation.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we adjourn. Public has already spoken.
Motion denied.
Very narrow, unstriped Chicago Cubs mailbox, Park Road. He's a Texas Ranger fan, and we open Thursday.
Who are you talking to? Oh.
Anyway, I'm just curious. I brought this up to the county, and the county did some research, and they brought back a bid, because what they found was, if we compare bids, what I'm saying is, with bids, are we bidding the same as the lower bid and the higher bid? Are they bidding the same amount? Or are we having change orders done to the lower bid that brings it higher than is somebody looking to see that at your house, we're taking down the roof and then it's a higher bid. A lower bid is not taking down the roof, and then we get a change order to put in a roof, which makes the lower bid higher. Is somebody checking on that, finance, or whoever does the bids? I mean, are they making sure that the lower bid is not coming with change orders for something that the higher bid did? Just thought I'd throw that out.
Mr.
Thank
Cole,
you,
you want to
Mr.
address that one?
Chair. Somebody's checking on it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, so that was a little bit, I know the specific incident that you're speaking of. I think that was, I'll say this. I think there was some intention there.
Okay.
And we did not catch it in that moment in time, but we caught it the day after. When we discovered. And of course, we're bound by law and statute. When we discover is when we have to report, and we did those things. And so, yes, to answer your question, procurement is watching those things, finance is watching those things, legal is watching those things. And to the degree I'm able, I'm watching those things. Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else anybody in attendance have any questions or comments? Anybody online have any comments or questions? And if not, make sure that I guess this meeting is adjourned at 4:19 without any.
This conference will now be recorded.
Might want to skip it.
Who is,
Oh my God. You know, I know who that is. It's one of 5 people. I know who that is, and they're scared to put their name up there.
Yeah.
They are
Final.
scared.
Oh, okay.
They don't have your phone number?
I'll read this.
They don't call me anymore.